Well, it's quite a scene here. Early in the morning, it's around 5:30 now, on the Three Hearts pilgrimage. You awake to Gregorian chant being played over the megaphone in a dark tent, and you have to get yourself together and open up your tent, and you look outside, and there are literally hundreds of tents being broken down, everyone with their headlamps on and getting their mornings going. And it's very dark. It's before dawn. You look up and the stars are shining brightly. I can look and see the Orion and Orion's belt that Dad taught me to recognize so many years ago above me here, with many other stars sort of glistening in the pre-dawn darkness. It's an amazing thing. They've had the bagpipers out making their rounds, making sure that everyone's awake. And today we begin the pilgrimage to the Clear Creek Abbey. It's 35 miles from where we are now. We're going to stop along the way for one night, and then march for the church and a mass on Saturday afternoon. That will be the I might say the goal or the end of the pilgrimage. Last night was really remarkable. We're, I guess about 2,800 people here. And at the end of the night, many of these young people were in a big sort of circle. There were hundreds of them singing and sort of arm in arm, and really a beautiful thing seeing these teenagers from across the country. I think there's all 50 states are here. As I say, nearly 3,000 people. I gather they were having to turn several hundred people who would have liked to have come down because they just didn't have the logistical wherewithal to accommodate them. This is the 5th year of this pilgrimage. It started with just a few fathers and their sons only 5 years ago. And they found it so, I guess, regenerating and inspiring and spiritually helpful that they invited a few other people to come the next year. And what do you know? 4 years later, there's 3,000 people here in this open field in rural Oklahoma about to start their pilgrimage to the Clear Creek Abbey. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with all of you. Lots of love. Bye for now. Good morning, everyone. This is the early morning on day 2 of the pilgrimage, and or day 3, I guess, because it started on Thursday night, and then we walked yesterday, and today's Saturday when it concludes. And I thought I'd send a few reflections on yesterday. It was, all in all, it's just a profoundly wonderful and beautiful and moving event. I find myself overwhelmed in a sense, just trying to talk about why that is. Now, it may be that it's that I am, though, it's 35 miles. I thought, well, 35 miles is just a walk. I'll just show up and walk. I'm in decent shape, and I don't know whether it was the that I was wearing my wool socks and what are usually my workout sneakers or what, but But in the second half of the morning, maybe around mile 8 or 9, I thought, oh, this is going to be a long, it's going to be a long walk. And it was. So I may be a bit emotional for the, in addition to usually being a bit emotional, for the intensity of this experience. It was really something yesterday. We lined up in our chapters. There are 43 different chapters. Each one has a banner. They rotate carrying their banners, whether of St. George or St. Martin's or whatever the case may be. And I was near the front with a group of from a school, and the morning had actually begun. Hearing a group of boys just randomly in the camp facing facing what would be the sunrise a few minutes later, singing in their I don't know, their morning prayers. I don't know if they go to a Catholic school or whatever. There were no adults around them. They were just gathered there singing beautiful Gregorian plain song in Latin from memory. My God, I mean, it's amazing what kind of hope the young people give you when you see them, as it were, taking up the torch, and with such joy and love. Later in the morning, an hour later, I on the pilgrimage itself, it's hard to sort of sketch it. It really is sort of Chaucerian. There's everything from teenage girls, joyfully reciting the rosary, to more than one pilgrim with a guitar, playing. Maybe 1 in 10 people going barefoot, which didn't seem that amazing at the beginning of the day, although I thought this is going to really add up for them over time. But in the second half of the day, when the entire thing was over a dirt gravel road, these people were really suffering. And they do that because they're wanting to voluntarily take on suffering with a prayerful intention. And so there was lots of singing on the road in the morning, and joking, and you're jostling about, and just having a wonderful time. And there was there's a break every 6 miles, so there was a morning break around. We started at 7, a break around 9, just 15 minutes or so. Anyway, we started at our first stopping point around, after the first 6 miles, around 9 in the morning. And then lunch at, we got there at around 11:30, I guess. And there, it was a field, an acreage owned by a local, friend of the pilgrimage, a Catholic woman whose husband has died. And there was a beautiful sort of clearing between two hills. Just the grass had been cut. And as you walk towards the clearing, the organizers of the pilgrimage had organized that there'd be pilgrims or volunteers, probably 200 volunteers, to give each person a freshly cut flower. I was given a rose by a young woman, and I think they said it was for Mary, and I think that the mass was for Mary. Anyway, so they have an altar brought into the end of the field, and there was a mass. A mass with a beautiful chorus singing into a microphone, but before the mass there was a sort of a shrine to Mary, and people were anointing the shrine with the flowers they had been given by other pilgrims. And over time, these flowers stacked up And though it was fairly warm in the heat of the day, and though we had just finished a 12-mile walk, there were quite a number of people kneeling and praying before the shrine. Then there was mass, and then and there's a first aid station, and people, some of them needing help of various kinds, and I think it's really safe to say that it was after lunch really where the rubber sort of hit the road, and there were people struggling, and the weight and the length of the pilgrimage at that point sort of, it's step by step, it's taking a toll, and there was a stopping point again halfway through the afternoon, and it was getting much quieter on the road. It was a beautiful walk in the afternoon, really all on gravel roads here in sort of slightly hilly Oklahoma, the leaves changing. Very beautiful, really. But there was more focus on the walk because it was just trying to get through. And I must say, my feet were really starting to hurt. I think these socks had been too big. I don't know what the problem was, but towards the last part of the day, this is, I think it's about 6 miles. I think we did 22 miles yesterday. I had to miss 2 miles after lunch because I had a call I couldn't miss, and so I had to take that from the lunch stop, and someone took me in one of the buggies to catch up to the back of the pilgrimage. So I had already missed a couple of these miles, but it was about 22 miles yesterday, I think. And I had met a father and his 2 boys that I had actually met in Oklahoma another time. Happened to pass him. There was a little brook with a pond, and he was getting a little cooling off a bit with his standing in the pond with his boys. And I decided to make the rest of the walk with them, and that was very moving. Also, he's a big, strapping man. He's just an absolute giant of a man, 6'5" or something, and strong and young. And he's got these 2 boys, maybe 4 and 6, and here they are making this walk. But the fact is, I think he had carried the littler one for most of it, and these last 4 or 5 miles that I walked with them, the boys were struggling, and I was really struggling, for goodness sakes. And we were having a nice conversation, and he was just the sort of sweetest, kindest man with his boys. He was so supportive of them, and loving of them, and encouraging of them, and at one point they were both struggling, and this man had walked about, literally 20 miles. Somehow found a way to put both of his boys on his back for the next, I don't know, mile or so, and it was just not a sense in any way that he was complaining or even really noticing. Though when I myself took the Advil out of my bag and offered him some, he did take 3 Advils, so I have a feeling he was maybe feeling it more than he was letting on. I carried one of his boys for a mile or so, and anyways, they were really starting to break down as we came towards the end, and I had never been on this, so I didn't know where the end was, and you think it's soon, and it is every step, it feels like the horizon is just receding. Anyway, we finally made it. I didn't know if I was going to make it. I was really, really struggling. My feet at the end, and my back, and as we came into the campsite, there were people, though they themselves had, from what I can tell, just finished their own 20 22 miles or 23 miles, whatever it is. But they were they were there cheering us on and clapping, and that encouragement was really meaningful at the end of the day. Anyway, I got into the campground, and the supper was ready. They had these paper bowls, really sort of with lids on them, and you come and you get a soup. It was a gumbo. It was very tasty, gumbo with rice, and I ate that down, and I was trying to find where I was supposed to be. They have a tent that they've kindly set up for me. There's just hundreds and hundreds of tents. It's a massive campground. You really do feel like you're in the midst of an army or a massive ragtag group of pilgrims. It's mostly young people, actually. I would say that well over half are under 18. And anyway, I had trying to figure out where I needed to go, and I was just so beat. I laid down on the ground, a stubbly, kind of thorny field, and just laid down. And anyway, finally found my way to my place and recovered for a minute. And there was a talk last night. I had given a talk the night before, and there was a talk last night, and then which just 30 minutes or so, and some singing, and that was lovely. Although I may have fallen asleep in the field before it was over, to be honest. And then afterwards, there was a beautiful thing. One of the truck beds, in fact, I'm sitting on it here now. At the edge of the field, they had made into a shrine with an altar, with dozens and dozens of candles, with a statue of Mary, I think, and it was just the most beautiful thing. Off at the side of the field, this in the dark, this beautifully made shrine, and pretty big, probably 15 or 20 feet wide and 8 feet high, and with these candles all burning bright, and to see that after this long day of walking, there were people on their knees in this stubbly field, praying, dozens and dozens of them. So I spent a little time there, and then collapsed into my tent, where I had a very deep and restful sleep. I wasn't sure I'd be able to continue today, actually, because of my feet, but changed my socks, and I think I'm probably going to make it, though I won't make any predictions here. One never knows what the future holds. Anyway, those are my reflections on the second day of the pilgrimage. I'm sorry I'm so weepy. But there it is. It's a very moving thing to see the devotion, the desire for holiness, the camaraderie, friendship, the care for each other. Most people don't know each other. I mean, there's traveling people they know mostly, but there's a real sense that people are there and looking out for each other. The desire to take on sacrifice and difficult things in these young people. The sense that within and beyond and for it all is God.
Used to drive an old van. Now Jesus is my man. Now Jesus is my man. I used to drive an old van. Used to drive an old van. Now Jesus is my man. Now Jesus is my man. Ride on, ride on. Ride on, ride on. Ride on, ride on. Ride on, ride on. Ride on, ride on.
Well, I wanted to share a few thoughts here now that my pilgrimage, at least this pilgrimage, is over with all of you, and tell you a little bit about yesterday. We woke again early. That's when I sent my last message, and had it not nearly as far to walk as the day before, but about 13 miles, I think. So it was still good and far, and it was getting warm as the day went on. And there were some really beautiful moments. One of them for me that really stood out was a group of nuns here, maybe 13 or so of them, all in their habits. It's something like what you see in The Sound of Music. And they were with running shoes, I should say. So they had decent footwear, and there were a couple of priests with them. And these nuns, they were a couple of chapters back from where I was, but I could hear them singing, and it was just amazing. I mean, great voices that clearly are, spent a lot of their lives singing. And there was one part of the pilgrimage after the break yesterday morning where there was a pretty steady uphill. They call it Death's Hill, I think, on the pilgrimage. It's a dusty, hot gravel road that just seems to go up for, a good period of time. And I was ahead of the nuns by, a couple hundred yards or whatever. I could catch their singing on the breeze. And I can't remember what hymn they were singing with, I think, a couple of priests singing the bass notes. But you know how music can just sometimes soar, and it's just a line of music can be so powerful. It's carrying, carrying a story. Anyway, that we talk about music sort of lifting you up. And for me in that moment, these wonderful soprano voices of the nuns, I wish I could remember what the hymn was. It really felt like that music, in a sense, was carrying us up the hill. And then, as I thought about that, I thought, you know what? That's what these nuns specialize in. That's what they actually do. They're always singing. They're always at their work and prayer. For us, and they are carrying us up the hill. That's the whole proposition of being a nun. But in that moment of how like a soprano descant can just cut through everything, that just simultaneously soars above everything and sort of carries everything with it, rising up the hill behind me. So that was a beautiful moment. And then, I'd come to know this little chapter of about a dozen people from Michigan, young people mostly, and very, serious about their faith. And, they're very zealous in a sense, but also just, sort of simple, people with pretty just heartfelt longings. There's one young woman there who was a really formidable intellect. We got into she'd done an MA in medieval history, I think, and she was just an absolute firecracker of a mind. She'd learned Syriac, and she's just a beautiful spirit. And it was clear that, as she told me, she really wanted to get married, and that was just a deep longing in her that right now is unanswered. And so people making this pilgrimage from a lot of different perspectives and lives that they're offering up, in this long walk to God. Then as we all gathered, as we go through the gates of the monastery, it's about a mile from the abbey itself, and We all got gathered in sort of, in our regiments or whatever, our chapters, and all of the people carrying the banners went on ahead. There's about 42 chapters, I think, and they all went on and to lead the procession to go into the church, and we all walked that last mile on this very dusty, hot gravel road up and down the hills towards the abbey, and then there was a beautiful moment as we got as we got closer. For the first time, I heard the bells of the abbey ringing, and that was very powerful because they were so soft at first. You weren't even sure, and then you thought, and then you kind of knew what you were hearing was church bells as they were sort of tolling in the distance, calling the pilgrims into the end of their journey. As one man said to me later, he was walking with his wife, that he had found it such a beautiful moment because he said their whole marriage was about helping each other to heaven, and them and their children, and everyone in their life, but that like the vows they had taken as husband and wife, that in a way for him this was a symbol of what their full marriage is for, is to help each other to heaven. And we got into the church, and it was a beautiful high mass. It's the Benedictines. It's all in Latin. Some of the boys from the local schools that come into pilgrimage had prepared a mass, and I think it was Palestrina, the Missa Brevis, with Sicut Cervus, that wonderful motet, as the deer panteth for the water, so longeth my soul after thee, O God. And the church itself, I'll send you a photo, is very unfinished. It's 25 years since they set up this Benedictine monastery, and the church is only really half built. They haven't built the roof yet, and they have a temporary roof. I'll show you what it is and what it looks like. And so that's beautiful too. And they have these young monks signing up, wanting to join the monastic life and to build this monastery. And I just was at their noonday or afternoon office and hearing their beautiful voices sing in this unison of the chant. It's in a way, it's an image of pilgrimage. They're what they're building here, and it's in a way, it's one thing to go to a beautiful church built 800 years ago, and you sort of hear about it taking 30 years or 100 years to build, and that's a beautiful thing from the past. But to see it happen here and now, the faith and the faithfulness and the stewardship and the hard work and all those years of worshiping on a concrete floor before you lay down the beautiful pavements, and they have a bell tower. They don't have a bell tower yet, so the bells are in a little sort of like a shed structure, which I'll send you a video of. But here they are in the midst of their pilgrimage, in the midst of the multi-decades or century it will take to build this monastery. I also wanted to just share with you, because I know I told you about the father that I wrote, I walked with for a while, and he had told me that his wife was I didn't mention this, that his wife was pregnant with their fourth child, and that child in the womb has been diagnosed with microcephaly, which I think means, and this is more or less what he indicated, that the child's, it's not at all clear that this little girl will survive very long. That was clearly very, very much on that man's heart as he told me it was, as he made that pilgrimage, so often carrying his boys. I'll leave you with just two things, and the one is a beautiful motet canon, actually kind of a round that I've heard them singing here, which is so lovely. And I won't sing it, but you can look it up. Non nobis. It goes by non nobis domine sed nomine. Sorry, non nobis domine, not for us, O Lord, not to us, O Lord, sed nomine tuo da gloriam, but give the glory to your name. And I'll leave you all just with one last thought, and that is that the persistent sort of insight or revelation, I guess I'd say, that this pilgrimage has given to me in witnessing so many parts of it that have sort of come into focus as a kind of gathering thought, whether it's of the or gathering or fundamental insight that seems to take all these things up into itself, is whether it's the flowers or the father and his sons, or the suffering that so many pilgrims took on willingly, or the singing of the nuns or of the monks, or the beauty of the landscape through which we were walking, the vibrant faith of these many Catholics. The thing that is really the words that have come to me is simply that the desire or longing for holiness is itself holy. It is the work of God in each of us. So there you go, everyone. Thanks for being with me on this journey. I'm so grateful to be on yours with you. Lots of love.